Welcome into the non-neutral zone, everybody. I'm here with Ian. What's up, Ian?
What's going on?
Not much, man. Ready to get into some Week 11 prep work here for the listeners. We're going to talk about some news. We're going to hit our high notes and low notes from our starts and sits from the week previous. And then we're going to get into some starts and sits for this week. Before we get into everything, how's your week going, buddy?
It's going pretty good. Although, as far as fantasy football is concerned, a lot of guys who we're going about to talk about are impacting me. So, got to roll the punches and try and play some tricky hands here.
Yeah, lots of questions about some big time names. First of all, let's start with Green Bay. Davante Adams with an ankle injury. He was limited Wednesday and did not practice on Thursday. What do you think about that?
Yeah, obviously, he went out of the game last week, came back in and scored the game winner. So I think it's a result of that injury. Um, it sounds like you never like a downgrade, especially later on in the week.
Mm.
But with a guy like Adams, I always wonder whether it's precautionary, whether it's they're just limited him in practice so he's ready to go in the game. He's not a guy that, as we found out earlier in the season, that likes to be told he can't play. We will see. I'm going to pay close attention. I have him a few spots, and he's been a big piece for me, obviously, when he's on the field.
Yeah, we've seen Green Bay be very cautious with their players. I wouldn't be surprised to see him held out, especially with Alan Lazard coming back this week. It looks like.
Yeah, he's been activated off IR. He's had 2 limited practices in a row, which is always good to see. So I think it's a good chance he plays. And like you said, it may encourage them to give Davante Adams a week off, which I'm okay with that. Obviously, we're coming up. At this point, if you have him, you're probably in a good spot. You may be in the playoffs already, and you'd rather have him weeks 13 through 16 than have him come back in this week and then be out for a longer period of time. So,
yeah, I mean, you would think I'm playing against him in the league of record this week. Davante Adams, that team manager is a 3-win team, so it's make or break for them this week. And I would like to go ahead and put that dagger and twist. Go ahead and put them out of their misery. Hello, Brandon. I know you're listening. So, another wide receiver in a similar situation, though, is on that roster for me. That's Kenny Golladay with a hip injury. He's been a little bit frustrating to own with the injuries. I know he's looking for a contract. I think he's playing a little bit cautious. So he was another limited practice and did not practice on Thursday. So another downgrade like you were talking about, Ian.
Yeah, this one I think is a little less concerning. Obviously, Adams is an ankle injury, and we've seen those pop up pretty regularly this season, and they've not been great for the guys who have got them. Guys like Mixon, Carson, now Adams, and so on. Michael Thomas. They've been pretty debilitating injuries. Kenny Galladay's is a hip injury. I didn't see the play as far as what it was when it occurred, but I don't think it's a severe injury. I think they would have already ruled him out if it was. So I think he might play. My only issue is even if he does, Stafford is suffering his own injury this week with a thumb. He tore something, and I think in his thumb. So I don't know what kind of service he's going to provide to Golladay, even if he's out there.
Well, here's the thing: he played almost the whole fourth quarter, I believe, with that thumb injury. So I'm not concerned. He looked fine with it. I know you have some concern, like you were just mentioning there, but I really don't. I think he's going to be okay, especially a guy like Kenny Golladay. He's a guy that he requires less precision with the passes. He can win you a jump ball.
Sure. No, he's great. He is a great player when he's on the field. He's wonderful to watch as well. But yeah, just a little, apprehensive. If I have him and he's my wide receiver 1, I'm going to roll him out if he's active, obviously.
Absolutely. And like I say, when I say I don't have any concern about Stafford, obviously, ligament damage in his throwing hand, although it's the thumb, it still concerns you. Just a touch for me, just not as much as some other people, I believe. I think he'll be fine.
Sure. Another Lion, DeAndre Swift, popped up today with a concussion. Now, this wasn't mentioned yesterday, but I can't remember if they actually did, whether they practiced in full or whether they did the virtual practices or whatnot. But we don't know yet whether that concussion occurred during the game on Sunday or if it occurred in practice yesterday.
So I'm believing that it happened during the game and he didn't show symptoms until during the week this week, is what it's seeming like to me. They didn't come out. If it would have been concussion in practice, I think we would have heard about it.
Sure. Yeah, I think you're correct. And so that gives him a better shot of playing, obviously, because of the 5-day, the concussion protocol includes a 5-day runoff period, or however you want to call it. So that gives him a chance of suiting up on Sunday. I think it's leaning unlikely, which is a shame because he's finally been given the reins and he looked great last week. And so I was excited to see what he can do again, week to week, and see if he can continue that form. I hope he plays, but again, you can't be too careful with those kind of injuries. You got to think about the future, especially for these guys. So I wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't play.
Yeah, I won't be surprised either, and that's a shame because, like you said, he's looked good. And the biggest limitation that I thought he was going to face this year, he's overcome it, and that's the play calling in Detroit. So good, DeAndre Swift's a special player. Hopefully, he gets right and in time for Sunday's game. But if he doesn't, then we know that's for the best. The way the head injuries have went for the NFL.
Absolutely, another running back who has become a bit of an enigma this season, Joe Mixon. Still not practicing, still no real update as to what the injury is and severity and any ETA on when he might be back.
So weird.
Yeah, I don't quite understand it. I think most teams have been pretty transparent with their injuries this season as far as, those kind of serious ones.
Well, I don't think it's a matter sorry, I was just saying I don't think it's a matter of transparency. If it was, I think it's just something they don't really know what's going on, because they could have put him on IR with the 3-week designation to return, but they didn't. He's already been out for 3 weeks. So I don't think they really know what the timetable is on it.
Yeah, but then even more so, you would think that they would have put him out there and just let him, use the roster spot, give him the roster spot. It's a very, very odd one. But again, Gio Bernard has been, outside of last week against a very tough Pittsburgh run defense, he's been serviceable. So if you still have him rostered, which you should have done, then roll him back out. He's been pretty solid.
I think it's going to be a tough week for him.
Who are they going against this week?
I don't recall the matchup off the top of my head. I just remember thinking it was going to be hard for Gio Bernard. Philadelphia, yeah. I think he's going to need a touchdown. He'll be a safe play because of the receiving work, but I think his upside's capped this week.
Oh no, that's Cleveland. Where is it? Washington. Either way, same take.
Washington maybe even be tougher. Yeah, they're very tough up front. So, same thing applies there. I think he's going to need a touchdown. I think his ceiling is limited, but the receiving work will keep him a little bit safe. So
sure, yeah. Another running back. This one's a bit more exciting. Austin Eckler looks like he's going to be back in week 12. He's a pretty active guy as far as the social media, and he's been keeping his status pretty updated as far as that. He's doing a lot of work now, a lot of jump cuts, and he looks like he's getting back. And again, I think a lot of teams this season have been cautious with their main guys. I don't think we've ever seen this many top name players go out in the season. At least I don't remember in recent memory that happening.
It comes down to the off-season programs, man, where they were limited by the COVID, and here we are. We've seen so many injuries. It's just not they have their training regimens that they try to do every season, and when you're not in facility with those trainers, it's different.
Yeah, I agree, but I think every team has been more cautious bringing their guys back, giving them an extra week, whatever it may be, because they don't want it to reoccur. And that's another incident of that with Austin Eckler. But yeah, it looks like he won't play this week, I don't think, although he's close and he is practicing, but it looks like he'll be back for week 12. And if you've been able to weather the storm and you still have him, then you may have a good piece for the playoff run.
Yeah, tough. It's hard to imagine you've been able to weather the storm without your number 1 or number 2 draft pick. He was going late first, early second, and rightfully so. We saw him playing really well. So it's hard to imagine you've won enough games to be there. But if you have, you should have him as long as you have that IR spot in your league, and you should have at least one IR spot. If you're listening and you don't have an IR spot, talk to your commissioner. If you are the commissioner, give these guys an IR spot. You need it. You see why when we talk about all these injuries. So
yeah, for sure. And this season, even more with the COVID,
yeah,
it's been a blessing, I think.
Yeah, we expanded League of Record. League of Record, I opened it all the way up, gave them 10 IR spots, and told them you can only use 2 for non-COVID players. The rest of them are for COVID only. So
nice. Yeah, I think that's fair. All right, another running back, been the star of the season so far. Alvin Kamara has popped up with a foot injury. He was limited Wednesday, another DNP on Thursday, much like Kenny Golladay and Devontae Adams. This one I'm less concerned about than I am about Adams and Golladay. I'm kind of in between. Kamara, they've done this in previous weeks. He's obviously at this point a very, very important piece of their offense. Now they've lost Breeze for multiple weeks. And I haven't actually got him on the list there, but Breeze, we talked about him on Monday, though, I think.
I believe we did, yeah.
But yeah, so without Breeze, they're going to lean heavy on Kamara. They're going to lean heavy on Michael Thomas. So there's no need to run the legs off of him in practice. So I think this is a precautionary. Did not participate today, but we'll see. I'm going to obviously pay close attention to it coming up to the weekend. But I think he'll play. He came out and talked with one of the journalists or whatever and said he's good to go. So we'll see, because obviously just because a player says he's good to go doesn't mean the team's going to utilize him. But as you said, this is a big matchup for them against Atlanta without Drew Brees. They need to make sure they maintain that lead in the division.
I think you see a lot of Latavius Murray.
Perhaps, yeah.
I think you do. I think they're going to try to punch it between the tackles a lot more. That's not Kamara's gig. He can do it on a limited basis, but it's not his strong suit.
But honestly, I think I like it if they do play him and he plays out wide a little bit. I like that even more. They obviously Winston, when he came in last week, checked it down to Kamara pretty dang frequently. So I don't think that hurts his production any. So I'm more optimistic about Kamara than I am about some of the other guys this week.
Yeah. I mean, he probably plays like you're saying, but like we said, anytime you see a downgrade from Wednesday to Thursday, you do need to pay attention prior to kickoff and make sure they're going to be active for you.
Yep, absolutely. Couple more, right? So Calvin Ridley, he's been out the last couple weeks with a midfoot sprain. Looks like he's progressing well. He has been at practice doing some sideline work. He is questionable this week. I don't think he plays. But I think he will be back full pace week 12 onwards.
Yeah, I think with him progressing well right now with sideline work, like you say, he's doing more stuff. Looks like he's going to go. If your trade deadline has not passed, I would be in full support of a sale. If you can get good value for Calvin Ridley, those midfoot sprains can be worrisome. They can come back and bite him again. It's one of those things where you never know what's going to happen with it, and it worries me a little bit. I don't think he plays this week, like we say there, and if he plays week 12, hopefully he can manage that and stay on the field for the rest of the season. So,
yeah, I like that take actually as far as a sell prospect, because he's been good all season, but he definitely took a hit when Julio came back to full fitness.
Yep.
Matt Ryan's just doing what Matt Ryan does, and he's targeting his boy number 11. So
works out well for him.
Yeah, it's done all right in the last few years, and so I think Ridley, people are still seeing those explosive games earlier in the season when Julio was out. Ridley's still a good piece, but I think you can get some value for him right now with this good news, so to speak, as far as him progressing well. So
absolutely.
And then the final one, we're going to cover James Robinson. Popped over the shoulder injury, limited today. I think he practiced in full yesterday. I think it's fine. Nothing to worry about. We'll see. He's a pretty tough cookie, and it's a shoulder injury. So, as you said off there, he's not really renowned for his pass catching. So, I don't think it impacts him too much.
Yeah, that offense doesn't ask the running back to catch a lot of passes anyway. They did of Leonard Fournette last year, but they've not asked James Robinson to play that role. However, I will say Chris Thompson is out again with an injury. So maybe they do ask him to catch the ball more, and it could hinder him, on an efficiency basis. But as long as the ball's on the spot and he doesn't have to reach up above his head like a wide receiver, he should be okay.
Yeah, and I think the reason they haven't had to ask James Robinson to catch too many passes, they do have. I feel like they have a more polished wide receiver core this season than they did last year. At least they haven't got too much different personnel. Obviously, they brought in Laviska Shenault. They still have Chris Conley, they still have Keelan Cole, and they still have DJ Chark. But they've all improved, I think, from last season to this season, and it's helped their offense as a whole.
And Tyler Eifert's still a good tool. We don't really talk about him because they don't. Here's the thing: that offense, they don't want to throw the ball. They want to run the ball with James Robinson, and so there's not that many targets to go around for the team. Even though they fall behind, they're still willing to pound the rock with James Robinson.
Yeah.
So sure. with that being said, let's move out of the news here, the injury news. Let's get into our starts and sits from last week. We're just going to hit on a few here. I missed pretty badly on AJ Green versus Pittsburgh. I thought he was gonna have a good week, and he scored 0 points.
I had pretty good T. Higgins there, right?
Yeah, T. Higgins had a big game, and so I guess those 2 weeks for AJ Green, they seem like a blip on the radar. If you're carrying him, you can cut him. If you got that utility out of him, congratulations. But he's just taking up a spot on your bench. I mean, he's just one of these guys that you're not going to know when to play him. And like you said, on the flip side, your start at wide receiver was T. Higgins. So that was a good call by you. He scored 19 points, projected 9.78. So
you're laughing in the bank with that one for sure. He's looked great. As far as the rookie receivers, Justin Jefferson is probably the most, or is shown out the most as far as his big game potential is concerned. But Higgins, for me, has been the most impressive. He's just been so solid all season. He's really been a great target. He's caught most of the balls thrown his way. He's been a wonderful out for Burrow. So he's been and I was kind of high on him coming in, and he's certainly paid dividends. So,
well, here's the thing: like what you're talking about, those two guys, but they've had the most opportunity. If you look at CeeDee Lamb down in Dallas, he's been ruined by his quarterback play, and so he's not had early on while he was with Dak, he looked great. And then, he's had to deal with this. He's had to deal with Dallas and Michael Pittman in Indy. He's started really coming along after he's got back from his injury. So it's one of those things where it comes down to opportunity for these rookies. And T. Higgins and Justin Jefferson, they've had opportunities. So they've capitalized on them. Good for those guys.
Yep.
And they'll be fun to watch moving forward years to come. So and let's talk about our sit wide receivers. We hit on both of these. You had DJ Chark versus Green Bay. He was projected 11.48, and he scored 7.6. So that's a hit for you. And Marquise Brown, well, I couldn't hit this much better unless I'd have picked AJ Green. 13.6 points projected, and he scored 2.4.
Yep.
So we did pretty well there on the wide receivers, and we're going to see if we can help you guys this week with some starts and sits as well.
Yeah, coming into crunch time.
Oh yeah. So let's see if we can help these guys get some vital wins here. And let's start with the running backs. Who do you have as your start at running back this week?
Well, it's funny. I just looked at the doc and I noticed we both went with a hometown favorite. So mine's Damien Harris against Houston. Obviously, I picked Kareem Hunt last week against Houston. I'm pretty happy to pick any running back going against Houston in a spot start going forwards if you have a guy. Damien Harris has looked really, really solid, especially the last 3 or 4 weeks. He now has 3 100-yard games, so he's only projected 9.37 points. There's no way he doesn't beat that, in my opinion. Again, what he has to do is punch one in, which we haven't seen so much so far this season. But Rex Burkhead isn't going to score 2 touchdowns every week. So
I think he's their goal line back. I disagree.
Okay. Well, last week he got a 40-yard TD catch, so it's not all goal line.
Yeah, but one of them was a goal line, and that was. I mean, okay, so you guys don't get to the goal line that often either. So no. let's just be fair. Damien Harris is a good call based on the matchup, but I think he's going to be. 10 to 15 points. I think that's where he's at. So
I'm okay with 15 though. I mean, he's projected 9, so you can roll out there and get me 15.
You going to claim
all I
victory
want.
if he scores 10 over that 9.37?
I'll claim a soft victory. Yeah.
Give no quarter. All
Yeah.
right, for me, this is listen. This is it for this season. Jonathan Taylor versus Green Bay. If he can't do it against Green Bay, the 31st ranked team against the run, you can cut him in seasonal leagues. That hurts to say. He was a 3rd, 4th round pick in your fantasy drafts. If you were a 12-team league, 10-team league, maybe your 4th, 5th round pick. So he's not been what we wanted him to be. Let's just call it for what it is. It's been a struggle. The Colts have not utilized him as I would have if I were the coach. It seems like there's either a scheme fit issue or, to me, it's just repetition. You're not giving the guy a chance to wear the defense down and utilize everything that he has in his utility belt. But he's listed as the starter this week. So let's see if he gets the opportunities and he can wear Green Bay out.
Yeah, and like you said, it's been an interesting one. I can't quite grasp it. In the last 2 or 3 weeks, he's had all the carries in the first drive, and then just disappeared. And I don't quite understand what the theory on that is, to be honest with you. Because like you said, he has all the tangibles. You would think it would be a scheme fit. Great offensive line in Indianapolis. You would think he would be wonderful. So it's been an interesting one to wrap your head around. But yeah, I'd like to see him finally. I mean, he started the season solid, so I don't quite understand. I know he's fumbled a couple times, but
Frank Reich's not really that kind of coach, though, where he's a doghouse. He's a player's coach. I think part of last week, Nyheim Hines looked good early. It was his birthday, so they let him run. Happy birthday, Nyheim. All right. It's not his birthday this week, Frank. Let's roll with Jonathan Taylor.
Yeah, let's draft up some fake birth certificates for Jonathan Taylor for the next 3-4 weeks.
Yeah, there we go. All right, let's talk about some less fun situations here. Running backs to sit this week. For me, it's the Rams running backs against Tampa Bay. I know that's kind of vague, but all of them could be plugged into a lineup, into your RB2 or flex situation. All of them being Malcolm Brown, Darrell Henderson, and Cam Akers.
Yep.
Well, and maybe it is where you have to play one of those guys, and it's fine, but it's like playing the lottery. Maybe you're wasting your money. Maybe you hit it big. It's a tough game. Tampa Bay's very good against the run. They're very good defensively all the way around. So it's a tough matchup, and to me, you're better served just to leave them on the bench if you have those guys.
Yeah, I like it. It's a good take. It's a tough one. I've obviously discussed that this season. It's a very frustrating situation. Sean McVay is making no fan of me. That's all I'll say about that.
I will say if I had to play one, it would be Darrell Henderson.
Yeah. But then again, last week he was a sit for me, and I was right. I mean, outside of his touchdown, he didn't do anything. He got 9.8 points, and he had a touchdown. So
I think he had like 7 or 8 carries and maybe a catch. But I mean, they split that backfield evenly 3 ways last week, and I think that had to do with them having the game in hand.
Yeah.
So maybe this week Henderson gets more work. He gets another week back from the injury.
Yeah, we'll see.
I could see you playing Henderson, but it's a tough matchup, and I wouldn't if I could help it.
I agree. My sit this week, Todd Gurley versus New Orleans. Not a difficult matchup. Another really good defense. It's projected 12.98 points, which I think is very optimistic. I know he's been. I think has he scored in every game this season?
Yeah, I think from week 3 to now he's on pace for like 18 touchdowns.
Yeah. So and he's not playing like that. He's not playing like Dalvin Cook is.
He's averaging. I think the last 4 weeks or something, he's averaging like 3 yards or less per game. It's he's not been very efficient with the carries that he's gotten, and Brian Hills looked okay in spells. So I think that's a good sit. Todd Gurley versus New Orleans.
Yeah. If he gets a touchdown, he might hit double digits.
He will. If he gets a touchdown, he will based on volume.
It's just not a play I want to be rolling out there right now. I was out on him all season. I still am out on him.
I was in on him at his draft cost, and he's paid back on that. But you know, for if you're the Falcons, you don't beat the Saints by running the ball on them. You beat them by throwing. And so I think that's a good call. I agree with you 100%.
Yep. So moving on to the wide receivers.
Yep.
Well, I got my start is we talked about him a minute ago, Keelan Cole against Pittsburgh. Again, they have the ability to give up plays, Pittsburgh, as far as through the passing game. They're very, very good at stopping the run. And I think this week, Jacksonville are going to be forced to throw the ball. So, and they do have who's their number one corner? Oh, they got the guy who was at the Dolphins.
No, you're talking about Minkah Fitzpatrick, and he's a safety, right?
Well, safety, sorry, yes. But he'll probably give DJ Chark quite a bit of attention, I would suggest, this coming week. So I think Keelan Cole will be, he's the number 2 there, and he's been getting some attention when Chark's been getting good coverage like he did last week. So I think Keelan Cole, he's only projected 8.48 points. I think he beats that comfortably.
The only thing I'll say about starting Keelan Cole is last week he did have a kick return. It was I can't remember if it was a kickoff or a punt return touchdown. That was one of his touchdowns, and the other was a reception. But if you look at the week prior, he got you almost nothing. He may have gotten nothing. I can't remember. It was a very bad week for Keelan Cole.
1.1.
So there's some inconsistency there to be considered, but it does come down to me. Like last week, Laviska Shenault did not play. He's highly questionable to play this week. So if Keelan Cole's out, if Laviska Shenault is out, Keelan Cole is definitely in play.
Yes. Yeah, and it looks like he's not participated either days in practice, so he's looking like he is going to miss again.
Sucks, man. He's so good.
Yeah, we both like him, I think.
Yeah. For me, it's Josh Reynolds versus Tampa Bay. Ramsey is not going to be on Josh Reynolds. He's going to be on either Cooper Kupp or on Robert Woods. Josh Reynolds has been the best wide receiver on that team for several weeks now.
Kind of like end of last season, actually.
He's a good wide receiver. I don't think he's as good as Jefferson long term.
No.
But I think that right now he's very good. I think that Goff trusts him. And with the running game probably going to struggle that we talked about just a little while ago, Josh Reynolds can have a big game. And it could be that it's the tight ends. But I think they've went away from the 2 tight end sets. They've seen that their strength is going to be with their wide receiver group.
Yeah, they have. They've been running a lot more 11 personnel this season than they were talking about running 12. Did I get that the wrong way around?
I heard you talking about 12 personnel and 11 personnel, but yeah. Honestly, I didn't hear which way you said it.
When they came into the season, they were talking about running a lot of 12 personnel sets with 2 tight ends, and they've switched back to 11 personnel now with the 3 wide receivers and 1 tight end, and I think they have looked more dynamic since they made that switch back this season, anyways.
Yep.
And I agree. I think Van Jefferson is a better talent than Josh Reynolds, but that's a tough offense to learn, Sean McVay. So, and obviously Josh Reynolds has been in it now for 3 years. I think this is his 3rd year in the league, and so he knows what he's doing.
Well, here's the other side of it too, not just the complexity of the offense, but when you look at typically wide receivers take a few years to get polished. There's no reason to rush Van Jefferson when you have Josh Reynolds and you have Robert Woods and you have Cooper Kupp and you've got your 2 tight ends and you've got running backs that can catch the ball. There's no need to rush Van Jefferson and him make rookie mistakes and have to learn the hard way. Let him watch and learn from these seasoned veterans that are good at playing the position.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, Josh Reynolds, get him in your lineup.
Yeah, so on to sits. Mine is Travis Fulgham against Cleveland. Good defense. Underrated, I think. And Philadelphia now, they're getting healthier on both sides of the ball. They've got Rager's back. Alshon Jeffrey's back. Dallas Goedert's back. Zach Ertz is eligible to return from IR. I think he's been designated to return. I don't think he'll play this week, though. But all of those pieces And obviously Miles Sanders is back as well. All those pieces to me spell the end of the Travis Fulgham experiment as far as being able to plug him in as a kind of an underrated wide receiver one there for a few weeks. So I think he put up nothing this last week. So, and I expect that to continue.
I don't know that I'm all the way out on him. I think that Carson Wentz has had so much trouble finding receivers that he could rely on this season that I think he'll still have some trust with Fulgham. We'll see. It's a decent matchup with Cleveland. It's an interesting one. I'm interested to see how that plays out. That's what I'll say.
Yeah, I also think the fact that Cleveland have Chubb back, they're going to run the crap out of the ball. They're going to take the clock down really fast, and they're going to have less time to cook things up for Fulgham. So I don't think he gets nearly as many targets as maybe he would have done in the past.
Yeah, I mean it's one of the lower over-unders for the week, I believe, and it will be a shorter game because both teams will probably try to run the ball more. So, man, Fulgham can make some plays though.
Yeah, he's talented. I just think there's a lot of mouths to feed there that weren't there, 3-4 weeks ago.
Yeah. I mean, we're gonna find out. Like I said, I think that's intriguing. So I'm looking forward to finding out what happens with that. I'll be paying close attention to that game and that matchup for Fulgham. For me, it's Allen Lazard. I'm sure if you've had him in your IR spot, you're excited to see that he's been activated. He plays Indy this week. It's a tough matchup. We've been very tough against almost every position. Especially if Davante Adams doesn't play, he's going to be getting the number one coverage. I don't want that. Do you like Allen Lazard?
No, not coming right off of IR as well. Perhaps still carrying the lingering of the injury. Yeah, that's not going to be an easy matchup. Might be actually a good place for MVS. He's been pretty serviceable the last couple of weeks as well.
Maybe so. I don't know. It's tough matchup. Like I said, I don't know that I would trust any of them.
Unless it's Adams, I'm not sure.
I'm not taking a risk. I don't think on MVS or Lazard.
Agree.
So, let's talk about our streaming quarterbacks. We've got, for me, Joe Flacco versus the Chargers. What do you think about that?
That doesn't make you feel more gross than the Nick Foles call last week?
No, Nick Foles is so disgusting. Like, we saw why. Was I wrong? Like, was I wrong about how bad he is?
No, he didn't do so hot.
Trash.
No,
the most gracious thing that could have happened to him was the injury.
Yeah. This is definitely an area we've struggled to hit on so far this season. Every time I pick a guy, he tends to get hurt. So maybe that's a.
And you're picking. And who are you picking?
Alex Smith, poor guy.
Bless his heart.
Yeah, Alex Smith against Cincinnati. He hasn't been spectacular since he came back, but he's been solid enough. He's had 16 points both games. He's obviously checking down a lot to J.D. McKissick, and he's looking Terry McLaurin's way. So he has weapons, and he's a good quarterback. So he's certainly not going to win you a week, but I don't think he'll lose you the week either.
Yeah. I mean, he threw the ball 55 times last week. So if you're getting that kind of volume, especially against Cincinnati's defense, that's pretty good.
20 of those combined for about 60 air yards, though.
Yeah. I mean, that's opportunity, right? I mean, isn't that what we're looking for, especially in this segment right here? Like you're glad to have opportunity.
Yeah, and he's only rostered in 12% of leagues. Obviously, we have that caveat with our streamers. There's probably guys out there that are maybe more attractive prospects.
Sure.
But for me, they're rostered in a lot of leagues, and so they're not eligible for our.
So we may have to look at that.
Well, I don't think you can go too high with it, though.
I think you could maybe raise it to 50%, though.
Yeah, maybe.
What are we at? What's our threshold? 30?
I think we had 40.
40? Yeah. I mean, we could raise it to 50, right? Like maybe for next week. We'll talk about it off air.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we've got a good game tonight on Thursday Night Football. Seattle and Arizona. They had a real good game in Week 6, and they're here for the rematch. It's a big game for that division and for the NFL in general, the playoff picture.
Yeah, and honestly, two of the most exciting quarterbacks and two of the most exciting wide receivers in football. So it's definitely got the recipe for, and we already saw it overtime victory earlier in the season. So yeah, should be a good one. I'm excited to watch the rest of it.
Especially coming off that electric game that Arizona played. What a good follow-up game, against they played the Bills. They had the Hail Mary with just a couple seconds left in the game to win it, and now they play division rival Seattle. Should be a very good game, but we're going to go watch that.
Yes, we are.
Lucky us.
Lots of points.
Ooh, fantasy points, baby. All right, I'm going to go beat Brandon in some fantasy. Yeah, we're out of here. That's Ian and I'm Josh, man. We'll catch you guys later.
Cheers.
Bye.